Oxygen tank explosion. On December 3, 2019, Belinda Gale Coble sat in her bedroom recliner at her Crown Court residence in Zebulon, North Carolina, connected to a home oxygen concentrator through nasal tubing. The 61-year-old, longtime smoker, suffered from COPD and relied on the medical device for breathing support. Her husband was elsewhere in the house that afternoon, going about his routine. Belinda lit a cigarette while still attached to the oxygen line. The flame contacted the oxygen-enriched air surrounding her face and tubing. The high oxygen environment ignited immediately in a violent flash fire. An explosion engulfed her recliner and bedroom within seconds, filling the house with smoke and flames. Her husband heard the sudden roar and rushed toward the bedroom. Intense heat and thick black smoke forced him back before he could reach her. He called 911 immediately. Firefighters arrived within minutes and entered the smoke-filled home. They found Belinda unresponsive in the recliner, still connected to the oxygen equipment. She had suffered severe thermal injuries and smoke inhalation. Paramedics pronounced her dead at the scene. Investigators ruled the cause as fire and burns from a lit cigarette igniting oxygen-enriched air in a preventable accident. The incident became part of fire safety training materials nationwide, emphasizing the explosive danger of smoking while using home oxygen therapy. Trapped one-room inferno. On February 13, 2020, Ing Bok Sui lived alone in a cramped government-subsidized one-room flat on the second floor of an Ang Mo Kio Avenue 6 building in Singapore. The 66-year-old widowed retiree occupied approximately 200 to 250 square feet, packed with personal belongings, furniture, and cardboard boxes. His smoking habit was well established among neighbors. That mid-afternoon, Ing fell asleep in bed with a lit cigarette. The cigarette ignited his bedding and nearby clutter. Fire spread rapidly through the confined space with limited air circulation. The intense heat warped and buckled the metal door handle until it became too hot and deformed to grasp or turn from inside. Neighbors on the same floor noticed thick smoke seeping under his door and smelled burning materials. They immediately called the Singapore Civil Defense Force. SCDF firefighters arrived and attempted to open the door, but the handle proved unusable. They forced entry through the warped mechanism. Inside the smoke-filled flat, they found Ing unconscious. They evacuated him immediately and transported him to hospital with severe burns covering most of his body. He died from burn injuries and smoke inhalation within hours of admission. The Singapore Fire Marshal's office issued a warning about smoking in one-room flats, specifically noting how hoarded belongings accelerate fire spread and how door handles can warp under extreme heat, trapping residents inside with no means of escape. Mansfield bed fire. On August 18, 2024, James Stokes lived alone in a single-story bungalow on Redland Road in Mansfield, Nottinghamshire, England. The 77-year-old retired man was known to friends and family as a lifelong, stubborn smoker. Multiple family members and fire safety officials had warned him repeatedly not to smoke in bed due to fire risk, but Jim never listened. That night at 11:19 p.m., Jim got into bed and lit a cigarette. As he brought the flame to the cigarette, it ignited his clothing or bedding nearby. Fire spread rapidly through the bedroom, consuming fabrics and furnishings. Neighbors noticed an orange glow and smoke pouring from Jim's bungalow windows around 11:19. They called emergency services immediately. Fire crews arrived within minutes to find heavy fire venting from multiple windows and doors. They made an aggressive interior attack, forcing their way through smoke and flames. Inside the bedroom, they located Jim unresponsive. Despite their rapid response, he was already beyond help. Paramedics pronounced him dead at the scene. The coroner ruled the cause as fire death from a lit cigarette in bed. At the inquest, the fire service publicly stated that Jim's death was a preventable tragedy that exemplified why their repeated warnings about smoking in bed must be taken seriously. His case was used in subsequent fire safety public education campaigns across Nottinghamshire, highlighting the fatal consequences of ignoring basic precautions. Kolkata room asphyxiation. On the night of May 14th into the early morning of May 15th, 2024, Saptarshi Mitra returned home late to his rented room in South Kolkata, West Bengal, India. The 28-year-old private sector employee worked long hours at his office job. Neighbors described him as quiet and hardworking, often arriving home well after dark. In his small single room, Saptarshi lit a cigarette as part of his routine evening wind-down before settling into bed. The lit cigarette either fell from his hand as he dozed, or was left smoldering on combustible material near his mattress, clothing, or papers. Fire ignited his mattress and nearby belongings. Thick black smoke filled the small locked room rapidly, concentrating in the enclosed space. Neighbors detected a burning smell and smoke seeping from under his door. They raised the alarm and called emergency services. Firefighters forced entry through the locked door to find Saptarshi collapsed on the floor, unconscious from smoke inhalation. The position of his body suggested he had tried to escape or was overcome while attempting to reach the door. Paramedics transported him to hospital, but he was already showing severe asphyxiation. He was declared dead upon arrival or shortly after from smoke inhalation and carbon monoxide poisoning. The coroner determined the primary cause as asphyxiation rather than burns. Police and fire officials in Kolkata issued warnings to young single renters about smoking in enclosed rooms without adequate ventilation, and Saptarshi's case became part of local fire prevention education targeting office workers. By the way, if you find this informative, I cover stories like these regularly. Consider subscribing if you'd like to see more. Now back to the video. First night tragedy. On February 13th, 2018, Nathan Dean arrived at a supported living facility in King's Lynn, Norfolk, England, for his first night after being released from prison. The 43-year-old had served time and was placed in the facility designed to help vulnerable adults transition back into the community. Nathan struggled with heavy smoking and alcohol dependency, making him a high-risk resident. The facility maintained explicit smoking policies. Residents were prohibited from smoking in their individual rooms, with designated smoking areas provided throughout the building. Despite these rules being explained to him during intake, Nathan smoked in his room that first night. Either he fell asleep while smoking, or dropped a lit cigarette onto his bedding or upholstered furniture. Fire started in his room overnight. Smoke detectors activated immediately and alerted support staff on duty. Staff members and emergency responders rushed to the scene within minutes. Firefighters entered the smoke-filled room wearing protective equipment. They found Nathan unconscious on the floor. Despite rapid response and immediate medical attention, he could not be revived. Paramedics pronounced him dead at the scene. The coroner ruled the cause as inhalation injuries from a fire started by a cigarette in his room. The facility's management and the Norfolk Fire Service conducted a joint review of the incident, leading to stricter enforcement of smoking policies and more frequent safety briefings for newly admitted residents in supported living facilities across the region. West Valley Couch. On the night of September 11th into the early morning of September 12th, 2018, Noelle Cohen was in her living room at her single-family home in the West Valley neighborhood of Las Vegas, Nevada. The 51-year-old woman lived alone with her dog in the modest house. Neighbors described her as reclusive but friendly when encountered, spending most evenings at home. Noelle was likely smoking while sitting on the couch that evening. A lit cigarette ignited the couch cushions or upholstery. Fire spread rapidly through the living room fabric and into adjacent areas of the home. The blaze burned intensely, and smoke filled the confined interior space quickly due to the layout and combustible furnishings. Neighbors noticed flames and smoke visible from outside around 3 to 4 a.m. They called 911 immediately. Firefighters arrived to find heavy fire venting from windows and doors throughout the structure. They made an aggressive interior attack, navigating through smoke and heat. During their search, firefighters located both Noelle and her dog inside the home. Both were unresponsive. They removed them from the structure, but neither could be revived. The coroner ruled the cause for both as smoke inhalation and thermal injuries. The Las Vegas Fire Department released the incident as a case study in living room fires caused by careless smoking materials, and the case was included in regional fire prevention campaigns warning about unattended cigarettes on upholstered furniture. Tanglewood careless smoking. On October 19, 2022, Sherry Blanchard lived alone in a single-story home on Rosales Court in the Tanglewood subdivision near Santa Maria, California. The 65-year-old woman resided in a quiet residential tract of similar-style houses. Most neighbors were asleep around 3 a.m. when the incident occurred. Sherry was smoking, likely in her bedroom or living room, when she either fell asleep or left a cigarette unattended. The lit cigarette ignited nearby materials such as bedding, furniture, or curtains. Fire spread rapidly through the home's interior due to combustible furnishings and decor throughout the structure. Around 3 a.m., neighbors noticed black smoke and flames pouring from multiple windows of Sherry's house. The fire had grown significantly by the time of discovery. They called 911, and multiple fire engines responded to what became a multi-alarm fire. The scale of the response indicated the severity and rapid growth of the blaze. Firefighters made an aggressive interior attack, entering through multiple access points to search for victims and control the fire. They found Sherry already deceased inside the structure. The intensity of the fire and smoke had overcome her before rescue was possible. Fire investigators determined the cause as careless use or disposal of smoking materials inside the home. The county fire marshal issued a public statement about careless smoking being a leading cause of fatal house fires in residential areas, and Sherry's case was cited in the Tanglewood community as a reminder to check smoke alarms and avoid smoking in bed. No smoke alarms. On September 1st, 2025, Ann Ticklar lived on the first floor of a two-story multi-family residential home at 72 Everett Street in Middleborough, Massachusetts. The 90-year-old woman occupied the ground-level unit of the building. Code enforcement would later confirm the house had no working smoke alarms installed anywhere in the structure. In the early morning hours, Ann was in her first-floor living room smoking. A lit cigarette ignited nearby furniture or combustible materials such as newspapers, cushions, or curtains. Fire spread rapidly through the first floor, consuming furnishings and filling the room with thick smoke. The lack of smoke alarms meant no early warning system activated. Neighbors did not smell smoke in time to alert her or emergency services. At 2:52 a.m., someone called 911. The source of the call was unclear, possibly another resident or a passerby who saw flames from outside. Firefighters arrived with multiple engines to find heavy fire venting from multiple first-floor windows and the front door. The fire had progressed significantly before discovery. They made an aggressive interior attack, forcing entry through intense heat and smoke. Inside the living room, they located Ann unresponsive. She was pronounced dead at the scene from smoke inhalation and thermal injuries. The Massachusetts Department of Fire Services issued an official statement on the fatal Middleborough fire, confirming smoking materials as the likely origin and highlighting the critical role of working smoke alarms, citing Ann's case as part of a statewide campaign on both smoking safety and alarm maintenance. If this was informative, consider subscribing so you don't miss future content. Thanks for watching.